Hey everybody, Alex Kozora, SteelersDepot.com, back to do another initial analysis and recap of the Steelers' adventurous, one way to put it, 33-18 victory over the Cleveland Browns Sunday afternoon at Heinz Field. Steelers always have a way to just make every game as difficult as possible, and that was still true Sunday with all the miscues and gaffes and really how competitive at points this game was until kind of the back half of the fourth quarter when the Steelers finally pulled away and were able to take control of the game. But get the victory nonetheless. AFC North football, it's always tough, it's always close, it's often sloppy, and you're just happy you can get the victory however you can. And as I said before we went into this three-game stretch of AFC North football, you get the win over Cincinnati, you beat Cleveland. Coming out of the bye, the goal was you had to be at least 2-1 in this three-game stretch. If you went 1-2 or God forbid 0-3, season was going to be in some serious trouble. Now you've gotten those 2 wins. Beating Baltimore would be awesome, but now you don't feel like you have to have it. If you drop it, it's not the end of the world, although that means you definitely wouldn't have the tiebreaker with them, which would be certainly a downside. But with them dropping to Carolina today, obviously the season just feels that much more optimistic. So that's just, you've done what was necessary of winning 2 of your 3 AFC North games, and you go from there. So that's good news on that front as the Steelers go to 4-2-1. Offensively, obviously very sloppy early. A lot of factors for that. I think on the first 3 drives, you had a penalty, you had a fumble, which was recovered by Pittsburgh, and you had a sack. And you put yourself into some serious 3rd and long situations. You had 3rd and 11, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 6, and against the Browns team, which can dial up pressure, which has a good pass rush, and some decent guys in the secondary that can make plays, that's not where you want to be. Against any team, you don't want to be in 3rd and 7 plus, but especially against the Browns team that I think was 6th in the NFL in 3rd down defense, despite having a pretty terrible run defense, especially on 1st down. So they're doing a good job of getting off the field in what appears to be some situations that are even good for the offense. So the Browns are doing a nice job on 3rd down. That put the Steelers in a big hole. They went 0-3 on those 3rd downs, and it really got them off to a slow start, which, as Dave Bryant's talked about, historically coming out of the bye, for whatever reason, the Steelers are terrible at starting. They haven't had a touchdown, I think, coming out of the bye since, what did Dave say, 2008, I think, 2007, 2008, and that streak continues, unfortunately. But as the CBS broadcast showed, the Steelers are the worst team in football in point differential in the first quarter, and I think they're the best team in point differential in the second quarter. And that's what happened here. Cleveland goes up 6-0 after the first, and then Steelers score 14 in the second, shut out Cleveland. They take a 14-6 lead with the ball heading into halftime. Why is that? I don't know. It's just a fact, and so that's where that's at. But I feel like, not that it's done intentionally with this design, but Randy Fichtner's almost playing a long game the last 2 weeks, where against both Cincinnati and Cleveland, he's come out in heavy personnel, 12, 21, multiple fullbacks and running backs and tight end sets, and it hasn't had success early. Even against Cincinnati, the run game was fairly stagnant to start, but the effect that's appeared to have is that it's worn defenses down, and so as you get longer into the game, as you get into the second half, the defense gets tired, they get worn down, and then you start gashing them. That definitely happened against Cincinnati, and certainly happened versus Cleveland, where by the fourth quarter, that Browns defense was totally gassed, and they looked the part. And as Dave has talked about as well, this is a team that's played a lot of football. They came off an overtime game last week. Steelers are coming off the bye. Obviously, Pittsburgh's the much fresher and more energetic team, and just look no further than James Conner's second touchdown and watch number 51, Jamie Collins, who just kind of two-hand tags Conner and then lets him through because he's just gassed. They've been getting, just run on all game long. The Steelers had started to really get after him, and that's just a guy being worn down. So you come out heavy, you set that tone early, and although you don't get the results immediately, by the fourth quarter, when you got to close out a game, the Steelers did. And so I think that's something worth mentioning in terms of the philosophy of what Fichtner's doing early in the game, maybe how it manifests itself by game's end. But overall, up and down with the offense, which is definitely a source of frustration, but the Browns do have a good defense. After that first quarter, things settled down. Ben got into a rhythm. Guys made plays. The offensive line, it's got to start there, and they were just fantastic again. Garrett had the sack early, but not a lot of pressure for Ben. Now, a strong run game's going to help with that, no doubt, but there were times where Ben had just that. He had a lot of time. And they did a nice job with a lot of the blitz pickup and a lot of the exotic looks that Cleveland and Greg Williams, the D coordinator there, are going to send and going to give you. So the line continues to be fantastic. Again, Ben, 37 dropbacks today, 1 sack. Ran the ball, he averaged 5.4 yards per carry. Connor went over 6 yards a carry. So those are just fantastic numbers. And big credit to Matt Filer for stepping in for Marcus Gilbert in this offense, not really feeling like it missed the beat. That power run game continued to be an asset with DeCastro, Foster pulling. They ran Dart one time with Filer, the backside tackle pulling. So that power scheme has been their bread and butter in the run game all year long, and today was no exception. Connor's been fantastic. Getting involved in the pass game, the screen game, the check down game, while running the football hard, and just a lot of punishing guys on this Pittsburgh team. Whether that's Connor, Vance McDonald, Juju's a handful to bring down. Obviously, AB isn't a punisher, but he's just a headache to try to bring down. So then you got a little action with Jalen Samuels late in the game, but he ran pretty well, though, by that point. I mean, they just had runways to go through. It was easy for Jalen Samuels to run after Ridley got benched following his fumble. So offense did enough. Just want to check the stats here real quick. They did a decent job on third down again after that poor start, finished 6 of 13, so started over 3, so what is that, 6 of 10 to finish that, so nice there. Red zone 2 of 2, and the Browns were the opposite. The Browns went 1 of 2 in the red zone, 3 of 13 on third down. They've been a pretty bad third down team heading into this year, so although the Steelers turned the football over too much and lost a turnover battle, ultimately you won in other areas of situational football, and that's obviously really important to see. Defensively, make sure I mute this ad here so it doesn't pop up. The biggest issue when you face a team like Baker Mayfield and the Browns is just being able to contain him within the pocket. And I thought Tomlin said it after the game well, that early on this team had issues keeping Mayfield within the pocket. There were some plays he was able to extend. So even when you got pressure, like Dupree had pressure early in that game, you weren't able to finish the play because Mayfield's able to get outside the pocket because the contain isn't there, and he will either throw it away or make a play or whatever happened after that. So definitely could have been more sacks in this game, but just some of the inability to keep Mayfield in the pocket hindered that ability. But I thought they got consistent pressure overall, both with blitzes and four-man rushes. I thought, again, kind of the way the Steelers' offensive line did to the Browns' defensive line. The Steelers' defensive line was able to wear down Cleveland, and then by game's end and game circumstance where the Browns had to pass, really got after the pressure. I thought Keith Butler schemed it up well, where he was sending inside linebackers, dropping an edge guy, and the Browns just had no answer. They looked super confused, and you see the difference between how well coached both lines are. And now, granted, the Steelers have a better line just in talent, but you don't see the Steelers blow a lot of protections. They're sliding the right way. They're picking stuff up. They're identifying things. The Browns just look lost. And granted, again, they have a rougher situation. Their center's been hurt. They got a rookie left tackle that looks unplayable right now, to be honest, and Harrison there. But the Steelers were able just to get home with 4 safe pressure, dropping an edge guy, rushing an inside guy, and either the inside guy was going to be free or the edge guy was going to be free. TJ Watt's sack came off of an inside linebacker blitz where he came in free because the Browns slid the wrong way. So while the Steelers gave up a couple chunk plays in the run game, the game circumstance was able to be such where the Steelers got ahead. Browns had to get away from the run game. And then as the Steelers have done well, really for 3 weeks now, Atlanta, Cincy, and now Cleveland, Keith Butler has taken away the Browns' best weapon, Jarvis Landry, today. 8 catches, 39 yards on 12 targets. And I think some of that came late on the final drive. So they're identifying who the top weapon is, and they're taking him away. They did it against Julio. They did a nice job of that with A.J. Green and Tyler Boyd. For the most part, at least when Boyd was lined up in the slot, they really made a big, clear effort to take Boyd away, and did so, largely speaking. And they did again against Cleveland, where you really didn't have any other threats outside of Landry. And you had some other guys make plays. Callaway made a play, and Ratley had a catch early in the game, I think. But overall, you took away their best weapon. You forced the B team, the other guys, to step up and make plays and beat you. And, you take your chances in those situations. So hats off for the defense, I think, for overall doing a nice job, making the plays when you had to, and that was good to see. And you just want to see that pressure finish. You just want to see this defense finish plays. They got the splash from the secondary, which again is going to be really critical for this defense. Can they create some turnovers? Hayden gets the pick. Hilton did a nice job. So you kept the lid on things. You're not getting super gashed. I think the longest play they gave up was, Chubb ran for 20, Landry and I gave a couple plays of 20 plus, but nothing over 25. And some of those came late, like the Valve had a touchdown with 4 seconds left, and who cares about that? So, that's the way this defense wins. Get some pressure, create some splash, no big plays. You'd let the offense do its thing and get a lead. Last but not least, or almost last, I should say, special teams. Jordan Berry did well. Give him credit there. Again, a situation where when Berry's been able to pin teams inside the 5, which he's done 4 times this year, literally all 4 times, and all 4 punts have resulted in points for the defense, whether that's a safety, which has been twice now. There was the strip sack fumble of Matt Ryan against Atlanta, and then the pick 6 of Bud Dupree against Tampa Bay and Ryan Fitzpatrick. So, that happened again today with getting that safety on the holding call, which would have been a sack for Bud Dupree. Unfortunately, what happened after that was unmitigated disaster, where you had the safety kick, and I don't know what happened. I know Dave said that Ryan Switzer reportedly said that he didn't know the rules of the free kick situation. I didn't see the exact quote, so I don't know the whole context of that. But if that's true, that's unacceptable. You have Rosie Nix calling fair catch for some reason. I guess Nix thought it was going to come to him, so he went to call fair catch for it. Then he realized it was going to go over his head, so he figured he would just let Switzer get it. But Switzer thought, Nix had it, and it was just disaster from there. But this stuff has happened too often. I've written about it. I wrote about it shortly after the game for Steelers Depot. That's on Danny Smith. This isn't a one-time thing. It's been a systemic problem of these specialty situations that haven't been coached well. And so while some of this is on individuals for not executing and not communicating well, it's got to be coached up better. And it's really frustrating that I guess it hasn't. I just want to know what's going on, and it's really, really frustrating. And there's no excuse, and there's no, well, it's a rare play. It has to be done. It has to be executed, and it hasn't been. And it's been incredibly costly to this team. Not really going on 3 years. If you go back in my article, that's where I've been citing stuff from the Chiefs divisional game to the Chiefs game last year to the what was it? The Chiefs game last year. I think the Chiefs game this year, we had after a safety had a weird play, and then Cleveland here. So it's been a mess. It's been a lot of problems. And so that's where things are at there. But Jordan Berry did well. Chris Boswell, he made his first 40-yard field goal of the season, which was nice to see. Switzer provided a little bit of splash in the return game. But it's got to get cleaned up, and there's just no excuse for it. But penalties, the last thing I wanted to talk about. Finished with 8 today, which for Pittsburgh's almost a good number, but not a good number objectively. I think they still lead the league. They came in today tied with Cleveland with 58. They had 1 more than the Browns. Today, Cleveland had 7, so as long as Kansas City, who they were tied with, didn't have more than 8, then the Steelers are the most penalized team in football, which just has to change. Usually in the past, where seasons where Pittsburgh's been penalized early, it's kind of faded and corrected. Hasn't yet, and now you're getting nervous. Is it going to change, or the Steelers going to just be dealing with flags all season long? And right now it kind of feels like the latter, but we'll see what happens. So I know I've rambled on too much. Steelers get the victory, go to Baltimore, or they're playing Baltimore. I don't remember if it's home or away. Next week to finish off this AFC North tour, where they don't play an AFC North team until Cincinnati week 17. So if you can beat Baltimore, you go 3-0. Man, you're in the driver's seat. You got a good divisional record. You got a couple games in hand against Cincy, who did win today, but Baltimore lost, and so you're really feeling good about everything there, with a tough slate of teams coming up with really good quarterbacks. Chargers, you got the Patriots, the Saints, and towards the back half of the year. So I'm going to finish watching the rest of this Packers-Rams game. Packers with a 1-point lead. So let me know your thoughts on this game and where this team stands today and where you think it's going to go in the future, and any other comments you have, whether you're listening on YouTube, following us on Steelers Depot, or following me on Twitter at Alex_Kozora. Thank you guys so much for listening, and we'll talk to you soon.